Bueno, ya tenemos las primeras preguntas. ¿Alguien más tiene pregunta? Enseguida la retiramos. La primera pregunta para Tage es si piensa que China va a recuperar su demanda y si Argentina debería apuntar a ese mercado.
The prospects for China are good as far as I see it. When China will start importing quantities that we've seen in the past, I find it very difficult to say. Some experts are forecasting that we may see it in the first half of 2016, perhaps Q2, the second quarter next year. In fact, just yesterday, I read a report from U.S. Dairy Export Council, and they said that we should not forget that milk production is increasing at the rate of 4% in
Silencio, por favor.
In China right now, and it has been. You know here that in the financial world we have discussed very much the lack of transparency regarding the Chinese economy. I think we see the same lack of transparency in what are really the stock levels in China for whole milk powder. This report yesterday from the U.S. Dairy Export Council mentioned that they think that we may still have 300 to 400,000 tons of whole milk powder sitting in stocks in China. So, I mean, if this is really the stock level, then, I'm afraid, it could take a bit more time before we'll see these import levels that we have seen in 13 and 14. So I'm really not able to give a very good answer there, I'm afraid. But regarding China as a market for dairy as such, I mean, none of the big export countries can afford not to take an active interest in China. So Argentina, I guess, it must be a market also, to consider very carefully.
Bueno, la siguiente pregunta, o bien lo que piden es un comentario sobre los problemas ambientales por el secado de leche y venta de polvo como commodity.
Problems in drying? I'm not quite sure I understand the question, yeah?
¿Algún comentario sobre los problemas ambientales por secado de leche y venta de polvo como commodity?
I don't really quite understand why you're talking about environmental problems for drying of milk powders. Are you concerned about the amount of energy used, or I'm not really. I'm afraid, I don't really understand what is the context of the question. Yeah.
Pedí algún comentario. Dice, para producir leche se produce primero maíz, pasturas y consumos de agua de países extranjeros, exportadores de polvo.
Yeah, well, I mean, we, from a sustainability point of view, it has been discussed for many years that consumption of dairy products is really not the best way to feed the world, because it's a costly way of feeding the world. First, feeding the animals, and then secondly, converting the output of the animals into products for human beings. I mean, this is probably a very sort of sensible discussion in a sense. But I mean, what we see is that when the economic growth arrives in a developing country, then we see that consumers they tend to convert from from vegetable sources to animal sources. So, you know, I'm not the one to say dictating new consumers that they should keep, you know, with their vegetable diet and therefore save the world, if you like. I tend to think more that you know, that we should try to find responsible ways of meeting the demands of the consumers.
Ahí viene la siguiente pregunta, a ver. Vamos a hacer algo, mira, más simple. La va a hacer él directamente. Quedan nada más que 3 minutos. ¿Qué le querés preguntar?
Le quería preguntar qué cambios son esperables en el mercado global de leche en polvo a partir de las inversiones que están haciendo las compañías globales en China.
The companies in China, as we saw on this one slide, they have made enormous investments in milk powders, and particularly in infant formula milk powders. When you look at the expected demand for infant formula in China and compare it to the investments that they have made in procuring additional supplies of infant formula, I could well think, you know, that we have seen an overinvestment. And therefore, in fact, the Chinese market, in terms of infant formula, will become much more competitive in the years to come. There's already the Chinese government has already taken initiatives to limit the number of suppliers to the Chinese market. I mean, there used to be, you know, more than 500 suppliers, and now with the new regulations also regarding product safety and all the various other issues, now they're down to less than 100 companies. But as I say, you know, when you look at these investments, I think, you know, the Chinese market is going to be extremely competitive in terms of infant formula and therefore milk powders in a sense.